cracking, everybody? Get ready to be utterly entranced by another episode of Critical Mess. And this is the podcast where three hombres in the ad business talk about movies that critics and audiences do not agree on. You are strapped in for episode 9. I am Nick Honeywell. I'm here with a couple other guys. One's named Grizz Griswold, otherwise known as Andrew. The other one is Mr. Brian McCullough. We've also got producer Ben here tonight. Gentlemen, what's up? Say what's up to our listeners.
Hey, this is Brian McCullough here, and you know I'm going to do it. My number 6 favorite movie of all time, Terminator 2.
Stone Cold Classic.
Grizz?
That's a fantastic film. Can't deny that.
So, all right, guys, the icebreaker for tonight. Here we go. Who is your favorite character actor? And I would just like to point out that the last film we talked about had quite a lot of them. We had Steve Buscemi, we had Udo Kier, we had William Fichtner, we had Keith David, and maybe even one or two more. Favorite character actor, and I can start if you guys.
Please start.
I'll
please
start.
start.
Yeah, if you guys need to think about this one for a second. So I'm gonna go with Luis Guzman. I just watched Count of Monte Cristo. I really, really, really enjoy that movie. Probably a little too much, even though it is a fucking stupid movie, and I understand that. But it's just a lot of fun. Carlito's Way. He's in what else? Boogie Nights. Waiting. I really like Waiting. I know it's that not everyone loves that movie. I do. He's in Magnolia. He's in Beverly Hills, Chihuahua. He is a beast. So I'm going Luis Guzman.
Man, you know, I feel like I would 20 years ago I would have said Matthew McConaughey, but then he became like a legit leading man. So I think just off the top of my head, I'm going to go John Turturro. I think he's a great actor, but he tends to be a character actor, and or at least he started out that way. I mean, and the Coen brothers use him to that effect in several of their movies. So I'll pencil in John Turturro.
Man, that's a good one. So I had to go back and look, but Joe Pesci, maybe. I mean, I know he was in a lot of big
that's
films,
a great one.
but
That's a great answer.
He places himself into a lot of films.
I'm changing my answer to Joe Pesci.
Yeah, I think he's coming in. He's coming back for a few films here soon. Somebody just put him in something that I was excited about. I can't remember who it was, but
Sweet.
seeing his name in the news is always exciting.
Oh, in The Irishman, he was a force.
Yeah, he was probably the best part of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, tonight we are talking about a Cameron Crowe directed movie. It's it's weird, it's messy, it's an odd piece of film in many's opinion, but also according to many other people, audiences in particular, it's a film with some merit. So the film in question is Vanilla Sky, which is definitely a bit of a genre bender. Probably falls somewhere between sci-fi and thriller. Came out in 2001. In terms of who's in it, we've got Tom Cruise, we've got Penelope Cruz, we've got Cameron Diaz. We've got
who?
Sorry, that's how I say that name. Is that not right?
How did he?
Wait, who?
Yeah, Penelope Cruz.
Penelope. All right.
Yeah.
Cousin of Cantaloupe.
Second cousin? Yeah.
We've got Cameron Diaz. We've got Jason Lee. We got Kurt Russell, the great Kurt Russell. Noah Taylor, also of note in this movie. This movie cost $68 million to put together. It took home a respectable $203 million worldwide at the box office, and I think it was around $100 million in the U.S. In terms of how it's rated on Rotten Tomatoes, it is a fairly stinky 43% with critics and a fairly respectable 72% with audiences. So one thing, before we just kind of jump into this thing, I want to point out is that Vanilla Sky has kind of an unusual distinction of being nominated for awards that are both good and bad, which is, that would be an interesting list of movies to put together. Because, you've got kind of famous bad awards like the Razzies, being kind of the main one, I would say, but there are others. But that kind of just goes to show how polarizing this movie was. It was nominated for 1 Oscar. That was for Best Original Song.
Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney, that's right. 2 Golden Globes as well. Cameron Diaz got a nomination for Best Supporting Actress.
Wow.
She didn't win.
What?
She did
Surely.
not win. She did not win. But also the Paul McCartney song, also called Vanilla Sky. Cameron Diaz was also nominated for a Screen Actors Guild Award that she did not win. But this movie was nominated for a
lot of wins all around.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. It won nothing, good or bad. But it was nominated for a Golden Raspberry Award for Penelope, also as Worst Actress.
Sorry, Penelope. Okay.
Anyway, let's get into it here, gentlemen. So I think the first thing we usually do is we talk about the first time we saw the film and what our exposure was to the movie, and how many times we've seen it over the years. So I will ask you guys, when did you first see this movie, and how many times have you seen it subsequently?
Last week was the first time I'd seen this film. I had known about it. I'd seen scenes from it here and there over the years, but I'd never actually sat down and watched it. So last week was the first time I'd seen it.
It's coincidentally we were doing a podcast on it, so it's a good thing you happened to watch it.
Exactly. Yeah. What a coincidence.
I saw it when it first came out 20 years ago with my college buddies. We all watched it, loved it. I mean, yeah, I lived with a band, so we were Jeff Buckley, Radiohead, all that stuff, and very much I connect very distinct memories to that time in life. Anytime I think of this movie or see any imagery from Vanilla Sky, it takes me right back to the days when I turned 21 and just like party lifestyle and all that. And then I maybe watched it once or twice then, and 20 years later, watched it yesterday.
I think you and I have like basically the exact same story, and we were talking about that a little bit earlier. This movie really does feel like a very specific time and place, and as we've said of a couple other films that we've talked about on this podcast, feels very of the time in a lot of ways. And I think the music is a big part of that, because there's a lot of really good music and really interesting music in this movie, but a lot of it was kind of popular music at that time. So that kind of brings you back. Okay, so I think we need to rate this film now, and I would love to hear what you two would give this out of 100, because I think we're gonna have a discrepancy here. So let's see.
I really hope so. Go.
Brian's score is a 77 out of 100. And that surprises me more than either of you.
That actually shocks me big time. So I'm impressed.
And I will back that up tonight.
So my wife actually loves this movie. We didn't get to watch it together, but she told me how she just really enjoyed it when she first watched it back in like probably high school or late middle school or something like that. So I was right middle of the road, 61. So I was intrigued, but it was kind of awkward at the same time. So I think it kept my attention, but some of the acting was just real rough for me. So
yeah, so we are pretty spread out here, because I'm going 37.
oh my God.
Wow. I didn't completely abhor it, but I thought it was pretty bad, and I didn't enjoy it, and I liked it a lot less than I thought I was going to. I want to remind everybody you're listening to Critical Mess. We are talking about Vanilla Sky. We are sponsored tonight by Woodford Reserve. Woodford, we love it.
Rye whiskey,
yes. We've also got about half a bottle of sponsored Basil Hayden's. So we'll see if we make a dent in that as well. But a dual sponsor tonight.
delicious.
Delicious indeed. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, gents, why the critics and the audiences don't agree on this movie. And I think there are a lot of reasons for that, but let's just, I'm going to kick it to you guys. Why, off the bat, do we not agree?
Well, I don't know who writes these little Rotten Tomatoes critic synopses. I've often wondered that, because how do you, in one sentence, sum up what 174 critics think? And whoever does that, that's a tall order. So I don't know if you guys have ever thought about that. It's usually pretty impressive and usually very thoughtful and well written.
It's good copywriting.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I'll read that. I'll read what this one says for Vanilla Sky. I actually haven't read this yet. It says, an ambitious mix of genres. So it's kind of like what you said, a mix of genres there. Vanilla Sky collapses into an incoherent jumble. Cruise's performance lacks depth. Huh? And it's hard to feel sympathy for his narcissistic character. Okay, so right there we're getting some confusing, maybe erratic, maybe bad structure. They don't like Tom Cruise's performance. That's a head scratcher for me, because he carried this movie.
Really, you thought so?
Oh, absolutely.
Man.
Especially up against Penelope Cruz and Cameron Crowe. I mean Cameron Diaz. My goodness. And Jason Lee. Okay, can we just real quick? Jason Lee was wasted in this movie.
What the hell happened to that guy?
I don't know, but and I don't mean he was wasted drunk. I mean he could have been a really good side character, and he was terrible.
I think the acting across the board was pretty rough, Tom Cruise included.
Jason Lee needs lessons on how to act drunk. Have you ever seen somebody
think he
less
just needs-
drunk acting drunk?
He just needs lessons on how to act.
Okay, well,
period.
yeah,
He's
sure.
kind of a shitty actor.
But so that's why I'm saying Tom Cruise, because Tom Cruise, to me, Tom Cruise was very intriguing. You know, the way that he was dealing with things, and he's kind of oddball sometimes. How he kind of does his little weird dances and his weird kind of outbursts. I don't know. He to me, he carried it, and he was pretty complex. He was deep. So I'm going to disagree with that right there. But yeah, critics. It seems like that's the synopsis there. And why don't we just read one or two real quick, and then Grizz, you can kind of maybe weigh in on why you think critics didn't like it. First one here from Vadim Rizov, Filmmaker Magazine. If the star and director are kind of worrying about the same middle-aged fall-off, Crow's specific fears are more compelling to me and responsible for what intellectually is the movie's most fascinating idea. I don't know what the hell I just read. Didn't understand a word of it. Let's go to the next one. Steven Silver, Tilt Magazine. Doesn't make any more sense now than it did in 2001. So again, we have doesn't make sense, incoherent structure. Do you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, I think the only note that I had from the critic scores was they all seemed like they had an issue with the third act or the last half, where it started to get sci-fi, complex, and none of that was mentioned anywhere in the first half of the film. So I think that might have been where they just kind of fell off the rails, or where their scores just plummeted. I would love to see what their scores were at the halfway point or the midpoint before any of that stuff kind of happened towards the end. But
Well, can I just say really quickly, I thought like the first 15, 20 minutes of this movie was by far the best part of this movie. I really actually kind of enjoyed that
Yeah.
part kind of a lot. I was having a
Very.
lot of fun. Anyways, sorry.
First
Yeah,
15
very much.
minutes and last 15 minutes were the best parts of this movie.
I agree with that.
the middle part was just yeah, I would strongly agree. The beginning was very good. I thought the whole first half, I was intrigued by the characters, like what they were doing. Why was he in jail? Why was he being interviewed? Why do you have like all these things? And then it just started to completely unravel, and you had more questions toward the end. And then it kind of somewhat made sense at the end. I had to look up a few things, but
Well, we're going to talk about the
Yeah.
end because it's interesting. Cameron Crowe had some things to say about the end, and we're going to discuss those here in
Okay.
a little bit. So, I guess my quick reaction to why the separation between critics and audiences is, I mean, I think one pretty simple reason is that people just really like Tom Cruise. He's a likable actor to a lot of people. A lot of people hate Tom Cruise too, but generally speaking, and I think at that time he was maybe. He was pretty beloved at that time, and he's still pretty beloved today. I mean, let's be serious.
I find with Tom Cruise that you'll talk to people and they'll hate Tom Cruise, but they'll still watch his movies.
Yeah,
And a
yeah.
lot of other people in real life that people hate, they won't watch their movies. There's something about Tom Cruise that even the people who hate him will still watch his movies.
there's he's just a pure entertainer, like to the purest form. I mean, it's incredible how he is stuck with it for all these years, and people still pay in droves to go see him in movies. It's nuts. Even after his
movies.
meltdown.
Tom Cruise is
Yeah.
movies. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I think another reason audiences really like this movie was the music. We talked about that a little bit already. It has a really good soundtrack, a lot of just really atmospheric and emotional music that really drives the film along. I think critics did not like this movie. I think one reason is just, and Grizz, you touched on it a little bit, but I think the storytelling was, I think it was just bad storytelling. And I know that's just my opinion. I think you could argue that the other way, but I thought it was just very unclear and just sort of nebulous storytelling, especially as the movie progressed. It just got just more and more incoherent. And I get that. It's like a dream, and I understand that a lot of that was intentional. But I didn't like it, and I can see why critics wouldn't have liked that either. So.
Do you think at all that Vanilla Sky came out of the era where it was very common and kind of the hip thing to do stuff like Requiem for a Dream type stuff, surrealistic? You had The Matrix a little bit
Matrix
beforehand.
a couple years before. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Charlie Kaufman movie.
John Malkovich.
Yeah, that one.
John
and-
Malkovich.
Yeah,
Bitch.
Yeah, and
Mia Jovovich.
Eternal Sunshine.
Eternal
also was
Sunshine.
kind of that, around that.
Yep. And then you got Lynch. Was really big in the 90s. And this was 2001. So this was like, or maybe 2000. So do you guys think at all that this was like a kind of jumping on the sort of surrealistic, is it a dream surrealism of the Lynchian era, I'd say?
It's zeitgeisty.
Okay, perfect word.
I think it was just the turn of millennia and like the whole 2000 Y2K, the whole thing just kind of came to a brought in that time frame that people just wrote to that at the end of 98, 99.
Yeah. Was it zeitgeisty to a fault? Because
The Nick-
I'm hearing that's maybe what you're saying is like it was forced, sort of surrealistic.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could kind of argue either way on
What
that.
dreams may come.
I
There's
mean,
another
yeah,
one.
it was Robin Williams.
That era
right?
was
Yeah.
really big in those type of movies.
Yeah, it was. It was. Yeah, that's an interesting observation. Yeah. So, Brian, this is particularly for you. This is one thing we must address. I think this is pretty crucial to talk about. You had said, I don't remember if it was last podcast or a couple of podcasts ago.
It was 2 ago, and I know exactly what you're about to say, and it blew my mind when I first played this movie. I was like, "Oh shit!
Yeah.
What are the chances?"
Yeah. So yeah,
I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say.
So our listener might not know what this is. So I'll still say it. What this is Brian had told us that he does not do remakes, and this film.
You're not going where I thought you were going.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
yeah, no.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we've got a couple things to talk about
Yeah,
here,
we
I
do.
guess. Okay. Well, let's talk about this then. You told us you don't do remakes. We have done a remake. Was that? And now I would say you may not have known this was a remake because it wasn't kind of like it wasn't like Psycho, Psycho remake or something. Which, if you haven't seen with Vince Vaughn, is an absolute treat. It's one of the worst movies
Heche.
that's ever
Yeah,
been.
I've seen
it's,
that.
It's unbelievable. Worth watching though, for sure.
I mean, the original Psycho is perfect. Why do you remake it?
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's a
I know
weird
you're
one.
going. Open Your Eyes with Penelope Cruz 3 years prior.
Right. And it's a pretty, from what I have not seen
I
it,
haven't
but
either.
from what I have read, it's definitely a remake. It's not really a reinterpretation.
Here's what I'll say about that. Let me caveat: I don't do remakes. Okay, and sometimes sometimes I run my mouth, guys. Okay, I'll say
we all do.
I'll say just a very
why
sweeping
we have a
statement,
podcast.
and then I've got like exceptions to my rule, right? Well, what I was getting at there was, I don't do remakes that are remade like the Disney movies are remaking these movies that have the exact same audience that they had before, and they have a built-in audience, and they're just there to make money, right? I read up on this movie. Number one, the first time I saw it, I had no idea that it was a remake. Number two, it was a remake from a foreign language film that was not released in this market. Okay, so it has a different audience. It's sort of, hey, here's a great movie. I want to not necessarily retell it, but from what I've heard, it's sort of made as like a companion almost to Open Your Eyes. And I think Cameron Crowe said he had more that he wanted to say and not just re-say it. So there's a slight caveat, but I will also admit to being a hypocrite.
Yeah, I just wanted to address that briefly, and I think you did it very tactfully. In your
We
your
did
response.
it. We made Brian.
So-
admit
but now I'm
that
really
he was a
intri-
hypocrite.
Oh, I admit it.
I'm really intrigued though. What did you think I was going to bring up there?
Well, I thought you were going to bring up, because at the very end of our Twilight episode, my very last thought was that the movie ends with Radiohead. And
Radio-
thought that
I
was
was
a
gonna say-
travesty.
we've got the Radiohead. Yeah,
And
I
at
was
the
gonna
very
say.
big start of this
Right,
movie, and I had just finished listening to that podcast, and then I went to watch Vanilla Sky, and it starts with a banger from Radiohead, and I was like, "Oh shit! What are
Yeah.
the chances?"
Immediately noted that when I started the movie. So
What a great song! Everything in its right place. It matches the tone. It just everything about them musically and lyrically just sets this movie off for me.
So I want to just let everybody know they're listening to Critical Mess. We are talking about 2001's Vanilla Sky, and we are sipping on Woodford Reserve and loving life. I want to move on here to thematics. We always like to address, what we thought were the overarching themes of the film. I'll toss it to either one of you guys, whoever wants to take it. What was the big theme here, and was it a good theme? Was it an effective theme? Did it work?
I mean, it was really on the nose. They literally said the theme. Matter of fact, they could have titled this movie "Sweet and Sour." I mean, they said it was a little too on the nose. I don't know how many times they said it in the movie, but you can't. The sweet's not so sweet without the sour, and it's like, okay, you've been showing us that. You don't need to keep saying it.
they had a character say it a few times.
More
yeah.
than one character, yeah. So I think the movie is telling us that's one of the main themes. Grizz, do you agree?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I don't know. I'm really bad with like catching on to the theme of this, but his character arc is just exactly what that is. I mean, it's the definition of sweet and sour. Like it is I mean, he just went through the full journey, I guess. I mean, I don't know if it was as coherent as I thought it would be, but I mean, they speak to it the entire film. So
That was the strongest part of the movie, was his
Yeah.
character arc. And I think, Nick, I'll say, we haven't talked about this yet. I think There's a reason that I rated this movie 77 and not 97, because this is the type of movie that I seek after. This is Matrix, my love of Matrix. There's the type of movie that sort of is an allegory, sort of makes you think, makes you want to rewatch it. Inception, those type of movies. I love those movies, and this falls into that realm for me. What took away from it though was just a lot of like practical acting, dialogue, stuff like that. But what made me love it was the theme and the character arc. The theme is the biggest part of this movie, and it's really about like, what a poignant question. Is it if you could live in a fake reality where you could do anything you want and have full control and be happy, would you choose that over actually being alive in a world that's shitty? And that's literally what The Matrix is about. And that's also what this movie's about, because that's the question he has to answer at the very end, and then he makes his decision. Did we say spoilers? Spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, oh, we might not have said spoilers.
We might not have.
It's been out for 22 years, guys.
Yep.
I mean, come on.
Spoilers. But when he chooses to jump, he's saying, I know that I could live here. You could restart the lucid dream. You could fix the glitches, because everything was starting to glitch more and more and more. It's why the movie started to kind of feel like it went off the rails, but I think that was intentional. They said, hey, we can get you right back where you need to be. Everything's perfect. You've got the perfect Monet vanilla sky with the girl, and everything will be right back where it is. And he says, no, he chooses to wake up. And that, to me, that's the main theme. One other sub-theme I'll talk about is that it really explores the idea of how one thing can change the course of your life drastically, like sort of the butterfly effect type deal. And I actually have a problem with that, because I don't think that's how the world works. I think that the makers of this film are trying to say that's how the world works potentially, and I disagree with that. But it doesn't matter if I agree or disagree with that. That being a theme is a strong one.
That's kind of interesting. Yeah, I hadn't really thought of that one. I have a little bit of a different spin on the theme. I think we're in the same neighborhood. I think the theme to me was kind of the pursuit of happiness and everything that entails, and maybe how difficult happiness can be to achieve when you're focused on the wrong things, I guess. And, so just as an example of that, David is not close to his family, right? I mean, I know his parents are dead, but he doesn't have any other family that he's really close to, and he's a total shithead to his one friend. I mean, good Lord.
Steals his girl.
Steals his girl right after he tells him that she might be the one. What a prick.
Asshole.
And a
What
great
a
friend to just let him do it.
Yeah, he needs lets him
Just
do
lets
it.
him do it. Just lets him do it. But it's just interesting that, despite having, all the money and the hottest women in the world, he's just not very happy, and he just kind of lacks purpose. So I think the movie is trying to say something profound about the pursuit of happiness. Does it work that well? I don't know. It didn't land for me all that much, but I see what they were trying to do. So, okay. I said we were going to talk about this a few minutes ago, and we may as well just get into it, because I think it's pretty interesting, and I think it'll spur some interesting conversation. But so the end. Let's just talk about the end of this movie a little bit. So according to some Cameron Crowe commentary, there are sort of 5 different interpretations of the ending of this film. And to me, one of them is by far the most interesting, and I hope is the right one. I don't think it is the right one, just because of how the story played out. But I thought if the movie would have leaned into this one a little bit more, I think it would have been a better movie.
I'm interested to hear, because I read these 5, and one of them I resonated very strongly with. So why don't you
Interesting.
Why don't you
Interesting.
say
All right,
them,
let's-
and then
let's
tell
see
me
here.
which one.
The first one is that tech support is telling the truth in the film, right? And it's pretty much the film is kind of as presented. 150 years have gone by since David killed himself, and everything that happened after the club scene is a lucid dream kind of gone awry.
And tech support's literally the name of the character who he talks to in the bar. That's
Yep.
that's his
The
build
guy that
name.
keeps showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Noah Taylor.
Oh, that's Noah Taylor.
That
Okay,
is-
cool.
that is Noah.
I thought maybe that was like a young Ben Mendelsohn for a second.
that kind of looks a
That's
little
a
like
good
him.
call,
Yeah. Shout out Ben Mendelsohn. Yeah,
Heck yeah,
boss.
I love him.
Okay, second interpretation of the ending, according to Cameron Crowe. The entire film is a dream, and here is kind of the Easter egg that points to that. Very early in the film, I believe it's in the Times Square scene, which, by the way, was a super fucking cool scene.
Awesome.
I mean, that alone bumped it up about 5 points. For me.
Seriously, I agree.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
So
What
cool.
are the logistics?
And they did it.
They really did it. That
They
was not
shut down-
CGI.
It was a Sunday morning,
Yep.
super early. They shut down Times Square.
And they apparently rehearsed it a bunch with Tom Cruise, so they would know exactly what to do because they had very limited time.
They had very limited
Were you
time,
looking in the background to see if you could see like somebody in the window?
100%.
Yeah.
I 100% was, and I did not see anything.
I didn't either.
I didn't see a car driving in
Nope.
the deep background. Nothing at all.
Respect for that.
Yeah, for sure. But anyways, the Easter egg being that there is a sticker on David's car that has the date of 2/30/01, and obviously, February 30th is not a real day.
I hate to shoot you down, but it was revealed that was just a production mistake.
Oh, is that true?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
fair enough. All right, well,
But if Cameron
but-
Crowe said
but
it,
Cam-
that's
I-
directly
I-
from the director's mouth. So
that
yeah,
that is what Wikipedia told me.
that was in his Ferrari, right?
Was that the Ferrari or the Stang? I
That
think
was-
it was the
that
Ferrari.
was
So that was the
Ferrari,
thing
yeah.
that confused me the most was I've watched it once, and so going back, I remember weirdly, if it's all a dream, then I just remember the weird things like the car changed randomly. So was that
It was
I
a
can't
Ferrari
remember.
at first when there's no one when he's
There's
the
no
only
one in
person
the
world.
city,
and
and then
then
it
his
pops up
real car
is the Mustang.
is a fucking amazing
Yeah.
Mustang. It's like
Yeah. My
really?
dream car, of
that
course.
that
Yeah.
car wasn't good enough. You had to dream about a better. Anyway,
Yeah.
we're getting off topic, but yeah, it was in the sticker as 2/30/01 in the sticker, and I did hear that was a production mistake.
Interesting,
But-
interesting. Okay.
Keep going. Number 3.
Number 3, the events after the crash are a dream that David had while he's in the coma. So it's not induced by life extension, right? Is that they were called? But he just is in this coma and he just dreams it all. Number 4 is the one that I hope is right.
Okay.
Because I think it's by far the most interesting interpretation of the ending, and I do wish that they leaned into this just a little bit more with maybe an Easter egg or two, and that is the idea that the entire film is the plot of the book that Brian is writing.
Brian's writing. Yeah.
That I think is a really cool idea. I don't think they did quite enough to make me think that's what it was, but I really just like that thought.
Can I offer something?
Sure.
Doesn't he say he's from Ohio, and then he's like, "You're not from Ohio," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not from Ohio," and then doesn't another character, doesn't Kurt Russell
does.
say he's from Ohio?
Correct.
Can we somehow use that, Grizz? Make that be
Yeah.
something.
Oh, gosh, that's interesting. I didn't really think about his friend writing the book and that being connected to the story at all, but that would be brilliant.
That's the first thing that jumps to my mind to be said, because that
But I
was a
did-
little bit jarring when he
It
first
wasn't
says
until
that.
the halfway point where things started to get messy, where stories started to tie into other people's story, like his therapist, and then I can't remember, there was maybe somebody else that came into the room that's like said something that connected to this back to the story. But there were a lot of those little moments that I kind of go back. But that's after the halfway point. That's after it becomes a weird dream. Like, the sky is weird in a few scenes.
That's what that is that's after he wakes up from that. He gets drunk in the
Right,
club.
yes.
And he wakes up in the gutter, and then
Yep.
literally you see the vanilla sky.
Exactly.
Can we talk about something really quickly about that? Speaking of Vanilla Sky, how do we feel about films that mention the title of the film in the film?
You have to do it the right way.
Did this film do it the right way?
I think it did. It pulled it from the actual piece of artwork, I think.
I'm not sold. I'm not sold.
I'm not usually a big
Forced
fan
it a
of it.
little bit?
It just depends on what the movie is.
Now, if it's something like The Matrix, I hate to always reference The Matrix. Forgive me, okay? But The Matrix, they say The
Take a
Matrix all
drink.
the time in the movie, and
It's
that's
a little
different. That's
It's such a
different,
practical part of
right?
the film.
But you don't hear the words vanilla and sky next to each other ever. So to hear somebody say it, and you're watching the name of that movie, I don't prefer it.
yeah, I didn't like it either.
I love that that's the name of the movie, but I don't think he should have said it. That's a good question. I like that question. I want to think of the worst offender. So let's keep talking, but I'm going to think of a
It'd be
movie
a
out
fun
there.
list to put together.
Yeah.
Movies that say the name of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should work on that. We'll get an intern to do that. So
Thanks, Ben.
No,
Ben is not our
Ben
intern.
is the opposite of an
Ben
intern.
is our esteemed producer.
Ben's our boss.
Steve-
So we're
Bullshit.
he
He's
will
on the
not,
opposite
he
end
will
of
not
the-
be doing that.
He's on the opposite end of the spectrum of
That's
an
right.
intern.
Okay, the fifth one's pretty similar to the third one, and that's just the idea that the kind of the entire movie after the crash is just a total hallucination that is caused by the drugs that David gets when he gets his crazy reconstructive surgery. So those are 3 and 5 overlap a lot. So I guess is it the straight answer? Is it number one? Do we feel good about that? reactions to the 5 possible different endings.
I mean, I had read all 5 of those, and number 4 was the most compelling. It was the one I wanted it to be, and I love Charlie Kaufman, and that felt like a Charlie Kaufman script. But alas, I think it's the first one. Just how the movie's structured, and I think because of how they intercut between him being interrogated by the psychologist early on about the murder, because of how they're intercutting that when that happens, I think that points to the first option.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the most plausible, and that makes the most sense to me, having just watched it freshly and for the first time. That makes the most sense. That seems like that's how they made it out to be. And I don't think I mean, yes, the writing book from a friend that's fun as hell. But I think that was what they meant to do. So,
and I'll also add this: it really rubs me the wrong way that a director would make a piece of art and then literally list 5 ways to interpret it. It's like no.
Thank you for pointing that
That
out.
is
Yeah.
what fans should do. I wish you
Thank
would have told
you.
me Tom Cruise or a fan said those, because if the director did that, that tells me either A, he didn't know what the fuck he was doing, which I don't respect that, or number 2, he didn't do it artistically enough. Like, you would never get David Lynch listing 5 ways you can interpret one of his films.
Fuck no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out, because I was going to point that out.
Okay.
I think that was
so where did he say that? Did he write it in a blog or a letter to the New York Times, or what was that too?
It's a
was
Wikipedia
being-
article, bro. I just
he was
minimal
being
research, man.
Okay.
I just read
half-ass
Wikipedia. it
half-ass
popped
internet
up.
research.
Yeah,
okay.
No,
yeah.
but that's fact. I'll fact check that. I mean, I'll back that up, because I did read that, and that's not just a hearsay thing. That's him either being in an interview or on a commentary to a DVD or something. I can't remember.
So you're listening to Critical Mess. We are talking Vanilla Sky. We are sponsored very kindly by Woodford Reserve, and Basil Hayden's still a sponsor tonight. And I want to talk a little bit now about flipping the script. So, and I feel like I haven't shit on this movie enough for my 37. So
No kidding.
I will do that.
Let's flip it, but then we'll flip it right back.
Yeah, we'll flip it right back, and I will start shitting. So, so let's talk about, Brian, you gave it a pretty high rating. Why don't you kick it off here? What did you not like about this movie?
The dialogue was fucking terrible. I hate Jerry Maguire. That movie, I loved it when I first saw it because I was like 15, and I thought, oh, here's a cool movie. No, it does not hold up. There's nothing unspoken. It's glib. It's trite. I don't know I'm not a wordsmith like you, Nick, but I just feel like it's very unnatural. And where it was really happening for me was when he was talking to Julie after they had sex, and they're in his bedroom, and he's like kind of trying to leave for the day, and the way she's talking and the way he's talking, and then later when he meets Penelope Cruz and Sophia, and the way that they're talking, like the dialogue, it's so unnatural, and it just takes me way out of it. And I thought I was going to hate it about at the 30% mark at this movie. I'm thinking, no, this movie didn't hold up. It's been 20 years. My taste has matured in 20 years, and this movie sucks. But then the themes are what brought me back. I thought I was going to hate it because of the dialogue and because of the acting. And then there was one other thing I feel like that really did it for me. No, that was the biggest offender for me, and it was bad.
Yeah, I'm shocked. Your score is very high. I thought it was going to be probably right around where mine was. I was hoping we'd finish our classes tonight, but I think I don't know, it felt of the time. Now that I look back at 2001, I'm sure it was very shocking in 2001, but like, I wasn't super thrilled with it. I wasn't like super impressed. It was incredibly bad dialogue. I mean, I could not stand the acting across the board, including Tom Cruise. I thought it was just super cringeworthy, like how he acted like this rich piece of shit the entire film, and he kind of wishy-washed back and forth, like he was learning something and then didn't. But at the very end, he finally did. Yeah, it's tough. I think the acting was the thing that took it out.
And I want to caveat it a little bit, and I agree with you, but I also want to say there are some really, really good sequences and really good acting dialogue in this movie. It's not terrible the whole way through. It's specifically those scenes I mentioned. It's anything Jason Lee says, and Cameron Diaz is just not very strong. I don't like Penelope Cruz that much. But I will say, like, and I know I'm flipping the script, but I just want to make sure I add in that, like, that scene in the car where she turns crazy and he's reacting to it, and she's going off the rails. That's a really, really good scene. Great acting, high tension, stakes are raising. And then, the entire back half when he's dealing with what's going on, that's when it's good. But
Yeah.
I know we're flipping the
I would
script.
agree with that.
so-
Yeah, I think I would. I mean, I thought the better scenes were. Yeah, I think Cameron just being a crazy bitch in that car scene definitely was probably the best scene of the entire film. And I would almost say her acting was maybe better than Cruise, but Cruise just felt cringy this entire thing. And he was hyped.
Which Cruise?
Oh, sorry, yeah, Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
But yeah, that's so hard to think that she was the best of that. But she was just she played crazy bitch like really well. I don't know.
Agreed.
So yeah, I also thought the dialogue was bad, but I actually thought there were a couple of nice pieces of dialogue in this movie that I'm going to point out quickly, and then I'll point out a bigger reason that I added a few points to this film. So the bartender, remember when Tom Cruise calls him a bitch,
Yeah.
right? And then he gives him the free drink, and he says it's free. And he's like, "Yeah, it just is, bitch." That was
Yeah.
just.
I
That was
like
such a
that.
good line. I love that bartender. I wish he was the bartender at my bar, my local neighborhood bar. I also kind of liked the line. I thought it was kind of a profound line from Cameron Diaz when she was going, full wacko. When she was like, "When you sleep with someone, your body makes a promise, whether you do or not." Right?
What's
I
the
was
next?
like, that's some shit a crazy person would say.
What's the next thing she says, Nick? Why don't you
I don't
quote
what-
that verbatim?
What's the next line?
I was just trying to get you
that
to
line. Oh, I remember that line. Yeah, we're not gonna. So this is for our PG-13 audience.
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah, sure.
So, anyways,
Dang, I was
Cameron
trying to get you
Diaz
to say it.
though, Diaz, as you guys have said, plays kind of the crazy hot chick really really well to a T. Okay, so I'll say the bigger thing that I thought was good about this movie, and I'm not going to lie to you guys, I was going to give this movie something like in the 20s last night after I watched it. And I sat with it for a few minutes, and I thought that was going to be a little harsh because I just, as you can tell, I really did not enjoy the 2.5 hours it took to slog through this movie. If this movie was 45 minutes, it probably would have been pretty fucking good. But anyways, I had a kind of a strong emotional response to this movie. It made me feel something, right? It made me feel something. And I jacked up the score a good 7 or 8 points just probably based on that. And it wasn't a good feeling. It was a really, and I understand this is a personal thing, but it was a weirdly but kind of uncomfortably nostalgic feeling. But it was also kind of this feeling of sort of just like hopelessness and just, nihilism, right? And it kind of wrenches your gut a little bit. This movie does, especially in that last scene. When he's jumping off the building in the flashback, and he's got that. And the final conversation with Penelope, I thought was like probably the best dialogue in the movie. There was a really great line. "I'm frozen and you're dead and I love you." That was a really good line. That one got me a little bit. And so anyways, so the movie made me feel something. It wasn't a pleasant something, but I think that it's usually the mark of a good film is it leaves you feeling some sort of way. So-
I totally agree. I can't stand when I walk away from a movie and I have no emotional response to it. I'd rather have a terrible emotional response to a movie because
At
at
least
least
then-
it was something.
At least then you have something to discuss
Yeah.
afterwards. You know what I mean?
I
don't-
love movies
yeah.
that make me feel, and I agree with you. This movie, it's the intangibles, and I don't know if it's the music or what, but yeah, you're right. This movie, it's visceral.
It wasn't like I wouldn't say it was clever, but it was engaging. Like the whole way through, I was intrigued by everything that was happening. It went pretty quick. Like every scene was fast paced after the halfway point, especially. So that's what kind of kept me interested in the story to see, okay, what the hell is going to happen next? Like car crash and like the hemming and the jumpsuit inside the like that right at the start of the film. You're like, all right, what the fuck did he do? And you're like, all right, waiting for that moment to see why he's there and what is behind his face or behind his mask. Is he still fucked up? Does he have a perfect face? Did that actually happen? All those things.
Yeah.
Like you're curious about everything. So
Yeah, they do a good job with making you want to
Yes.
know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Nick, I want to get your take on this. Producer Ben and I were talking earlier. In another world, Vanilla Sky stars Christian Bale and is directed by David Lynch. Do you like that movie?
I think it's a much better movie, and I think we also flip Penelope and Cameron Diaz in their roles.
Ooh. Would you recast either of them?
No, absolutely not.
Okay,
Because
flip 'em.
I think
Okay.
Penelope could play like a crazy kind of Latina, like with the kind of those big, dark, deep eyes. You know, she could really go ham. And I feel like Cameron Diaz could kind of play the quirky, cool, hot, amazing, perfect chick as she has done many times before.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that might have made the movie better. So yes, what you said plus what I said, I think makes a movie that's in like the 60s.
Cool.
I would
Yeah.
strongly agree with that.
Yeah.
Dang, yeah. Cameron Diaz, I think, which is this peak Cameron Diaz?
Yeah.
Like, was it early 2000s, and then she kind of went off?
I was going to make a joke that, you know how this movie, that one of the themes is like one thing can drastically change the course of everything. I was going to make a joke that Cameron Diaz not winning her actress award led to her quitting Hollywood.
Yeah, and fully retiring.
Hot take.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe true.
Had she
Maybe
won
true.
for this movie, would she be an A-lister in Hollywood right now?
Yeah, she's doing just fine. Yeah.
Yeah, but she's not in Hollywood anymore, and maybe that's a good thing. I'm not saying like she probably has a fulfilling life now, and she probably has some
I
brand
feel
and
like
makes
Cameron
a bunch
Diaz
of money.
damn near might be like a cool person. She just seems
Yeah,
like she might
seems
be
like
like a
it.
nice person. Like I've seen a couple interviews with her and stuff. She just seems kind of grounded and cool. Could be totally wrong. She plays the hot crazy chick super well, maybe a little too well. But you know, yeah,
I've never seen her in a role where I've really liked her.
yeah. She's not a great actress.
Yeah.
But she's fun. She's fun.
Yeah,
I would like that Shrek money. Come on. Just live off of that.
Shrek's
Residuals
great.
for-
Shrek's great, but it's because of Shrek and Donkey and John Lithgow, and you know, I mean, and she's fine in it, you know. But
So I think I want to talk a little bit about just big overarching reasons, just because I think I need to.
so
about just-
we're done flipping the
we're
script.
done flipping
We're
the script
flipping it right
now.
on
We
back.
are flipping it right
Okay.
back. And I think, you know, Brian, you in particular, I think this is kind of one of those situations where we agree that the movie is doing the same thing and you like it and I don't. You know?
Yeah. I don't think we're disagreeing. It's not like you're saying the dialogue was terrible and I'm saying it's great, or it's not like you're
Yeah.
saying the theme is this and I'm saying it's that. We're talking about the movie the same way, but I liked it and you didn't,
Yeah. And
which is interesting.
And so, well, and let me give you kind of the big reasons. So, I think first of all, this movie was very bloated. It was 2.5 hours long, and 90 minutes would have been much better.
I would
Agreed.
not have guessed 2.5 hours.
Agreed.
Yeah, it was a little under 2.5, but it was right. Yeah,
I guess
right
I did
around there.
split this film one night to the next. I forgot about that. So I watched the first half, and then I just all ramped up the next night. So
I also felt like in a lot of spots, despite being this, you know, kind of big budget, you know, Hollywood film, it just felt sloppy. And I think, I think Cameron Crowe's directing to me just kind of feels maybe not sloppy, might not be the right word, but amateurish, I think is the right word. A lot of times it almost borderline felt like a TV show, like in some way, the way he filmed certain things. I'd say especially like kind of the flashback stuff, which there was a fair bit of in this movie. It just didn't feel like big cinema. It felt like, you know, like I said, kind of amateurish. And I think that's more of a problem I have with the director than maybe the particular film. As I said earlier, I think just the storytelling was incoherent. And, you know, we've talked about how that was kind of on purpose. It's like a dream. I get that. I didn't like it, though, no matter how purposeful it was. And as we've also already, I think, covered kind of ad nauseum, the dialogue was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. And despite a couple of gems in there, you know, 80% of this movie had some really shit dialogue and some pretty, to me, uninteresting characters. Like it kind of made me a little bit sick how hard they were trying to make Penelope just the perfect fucking girl. Like, did you notice how she like every time she like walked into a room, she like did a little spin. You know, it was like, you know, she was so quirky and perfect. And I was just like, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit every time she popped on screen. And I think she rubbed me the wrong way. That was definitely a big part of it. I think Cameron Diaz was the best part of this movie. I think she did a decent job. But, you know, and also Tom Cruise, you know, God love him. I don't really love or hate Tom Cruise, but I felt this movie was not that interesting in terms of his performance. I felt it was Tom Cruise in real life with a little bit of extra id, right? I think it was him kind of playing himself like he does in a lot of films, to be fair. But I just don't find it super interesting. Tom Cruise playing the kind of rich playboy, you know, kind of just prancing around New York City. I mean, that's just not much of a stretch for me.
Brian McKay from efilmcritic.com. These guys are not only vanilla, but a bit too familiar. Tom Cruise once again plays himself playing a character.
Yeah.
There you have it. There you have it. Yeah. So, anyways, I just needed to get that out. So, those are kind of the big reasons I didn't like this movie. I found a few things to like, obviously, but yeah, wasn't my favorite.
I mean, so let's go. So it's funny that you talk about his character arc, but he decides to go back to the real world at the end. Okay, he stops the lucid dreaming. 160 years later.
Yeah, 150. Yeah.
I mean, so is he frozen in time? Did he age? Obviously not. So he's got to go back to what, a busted face, most likely, and being a billionaire.
Well, no, I mean they said they could fix him. It's 150 years later.
Oh,
so
that's right.
medical
Okay.
advancements would mean.
So
they
what's he
could
going to do?
fix
Go
his
back to
face.
being a billionaire and just?
Well, no. They also said
They
to him,
say-
"Your finances are not going to be."
That's the
left
character.
Oh, okay. I
That's
totally
the
missed that
character arc.
line.
That's the
Okay,
character
I
arc.
did not
Right.
see that. Okay,
He
I just thought-
chooses. He comes full
Okay.
circle. Yep.
Okay.
But,
Because
okay.
because remember the very beginning of the movie shows his perfect life. I mean, he's got that
Oh, the
flat
pristine
panel
apartment,
TV.
yeah.
He's got the one gray hair. I mean, it's like everything's perfect. He's rich. He's got it all. He's got the guitar, busted in the like everything about his life is to be admired. And you can tell he values that, and he wants the best girl and the best this and that. And so then at the very end, for him to be told, look, you can go right back to that and literally like live a perfect life, to discard that for reality, even if it's going to be not ideal. That's a very strong character arc, and that's what you call the I think that would be the semi-sweet end,
Yeah,
where the
yeah, yeah.
character gets what they need, not what they want.
I just thought it was like he's going to one life versus one that he can not control versus one he can control. That was the only thing that I
Right.
thought was happening. I forgot about I didn't catch the
And that's what I
finance
think,
thing.
although it's kind of messy and jumbled up mess, I think the movie does a really good job at taking you through that journey by taking you through the turmoil that he's going through to get him there.
So can I think you're right. I think there is a pretty powerful arc in this movie. However, I guess my rebuttal to that would be, and another reason I really didn't like this movie, and I think the Rotten Tomatoes kind of synopsis touched on this, Brian, but the idea that Tom Cruise's character, he really is this unsympathetic narcissist. Like, I don't care what happens to him really, because he's just kind of a shithead, and fuck him.
It really wasn't until that very last scene that you gave a shit. Even then, while you're watching the film, you're not. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
and that was arguably, like I think
Yeah.
I said earlier, that was one of the very high points of the film was that last scene.
And you're just watching it slowly unravel. Like, sure, there were huge spikes. There's all these things that happened, but it went from pristine, he's plucking the one gray hair in the mirror, to going to his day, all the way through to the train wreck of the back and forth, not knowing who he's dating or who he's having sex with, all that stuff.
Yeah,
It just-
I didn't like him either. I think a better movie where he's a piece of shit but you care about him is War of the Worlds. He's a bad father.
Agree with
He's
that,
kind of
yeah.
selfish.
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of rough around the edges. But man,
He's much more
you
kind
love
of
him.
relatable. He's
Very
a lot more
likable.
relatable.
Yeah.
In this movie, no one can relate to I guess that's another part of it. No one can relate to this fucking character.
I think that comes down to the writing.
Millionaire playboy in the
Yeah.
middle of New York City that runs a publishing company. Like, what, 3 people can relate to that on Earth?
I think that comes down to the writing, because we've already talked about some bad direction, and now there's a little bit of bad writing, I think, there.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think it does hurt that we don't care about him.
Yep. Okay, gents, let's move on here to our horribly titled rapid fire section of the podcast. I'm gonna call this also observational section of the podcast.
I've got some too.
So yeah, we're just gonna throw out some random thoughts and observations and react to them here. So I'll get the party started here. So Kurt Russell's in this movie, right? And for one, I think Kurt Russell is better than this. But more importantly, here's my rapid fire question to you guys: is he on Jeff Bridges' level?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So the tippy top tier of great Hollywood actors.
Kurt Russell has been in the top tier from fucking Backdraft all the way to The Hateful Eight and beyond.
He aged very well. He came right into the. It's funny that a lot of actors have trouble. DiCaprio is going to be interesting to watch in the next 10 to 20 years if he's still acting by that point. If he's going to transition from that child actor to the mid-tier actor to the adult actor like he is. So those guys, I think, kind of jumped straight to the old man, big beard, gravitas kind of age, and they went into it perfectly.
And do you guys equate those two? I guess
Oh,
I
yeah.
should point that out too, because I always think of those
When
two
I was
guys.
a kid, I thought they were the same. I
think
saw
I
the
did
I saw the
too.
cover for Blown Away when I was like a young teenager, and I was like, "Oh, cool, Michael Douglas is in that," and it wasn't him, and I was like, "Who's Jeff
Kurt
Bridges?"
Douglas.
Yeah, sorry, Kurt.
By the way, have they
Why did I
ever-
just say Michael Douglas?
Have
What
they?
the
Well,
fuck?
because they got the same last name. Have they ever
No, they-
been in a movie together? Have Jeff Bridges and Kurt Douglas ever been in a movie together?
Wait, Kurt Douglas? No.
Oh, holy shit! What the fuck is wrong with my brain? Thank you
Kurt
to our
Russell.
sponsor,
Kurt
Woodford
Russell.
Reserve, for
I was like,
for
now
keeping
I'm
me
way
on point
off.
tonight.
Okay,
Holy
Kurt
shit.
Russell.
Kurt Russell.
Not Michael Douglas.
Not Michael Douglas.
Kurt Russell and Jeff Bridges. Those
Kurt
are the two I
Russell.
mixed up when I was a kid.
And yes,
Escape from New
yes,
York,
Kurt
all
Russell.
of
But I
them.
will say,
Russell and Jeff Bridges.
I really do connect both of those guys in my head. They're both top tier actors. I love them in everything they do, and they've been at the top of their game for multi decades.
Agree. Yeah.
And Kurt Russell was very under. I just watched Backdraft like last week. Great movie.
So
and then to watch him in this, I'm like, man, Kurt Russell was kind of wasted in this. You know, he didn't.
He was kind of wasted, although
didn't
I
do much.
enjoyed him. I
Well,
enjoyed
sure,
when
yeah.
he was on screen, and in fact, that was one of my favorite parts of the movie in the very end when he kind of became self-aware and he was just like, "Fuck."
What are your
He was just
kids'
like-
name? What are your
right?
kids'
He
names?
was
And
just-
he's like, yeah,
he
that
just
was a
completely-
cool scene.
He completely gave up. That was a good scene, and he was a high point in this movie.
I felt like that was just the simulation falling apart. Like he didn't know how to answer questions outside of the formulaic kind of thing. It was very cool.
I needed
but-
more of that.
Yeah.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Here
Kurt
we go.
Douglas.
I told you it's the worst titled section. Kirk Douglas. Damn it! What the fuck? All right, we're gonna keep moving on here. Did you guys notice there was a cameo early on in this film by a very famous
Steven
Hollywood
Spielberg.
director? Did we notice this?
I did
Chris?
not catch this.
Wearing the hat.
Right before we
Steven
got
Spielberg.
Does he always wear a hat like that, or was that like
Oh,
a
definitely.
caricature?
That's his
Okay.
look.
Alright.
But I think even more notable than the fact that it was Steven Spielberg that was kind of at this party scene, this birthday party for Tom Cruise's character, the more notable part was his line. Do we remember what his line was?
Son of a bitch. He said, "Son of a bitch," right?
He did.
So happy birthday, you son of a bitch, or something like that.
He not only said "Happy birthday, you son of a bitch."
Ooh, I got a good memory.
Wait, Spielberg said that?
Uh-huh.
Oh my god.
He did. He kind of saunters on screen and gives him a kind of a hug and says, "Happy birthday, you son of a bitch! Happy birthday, baby!"
Oh, he said "Happy birthday, baby" after that.
He did.
I feel like that was him ad-libbing.
He probably did. And actually, you know what's funny? I rewatched that like 5 times, and if you watch it really closely, it looks like they definitely dubbed in that line. Like it looks very unnatural. Like his mouth is not moving the right way.
He does say "you son of a bitch" though.
He absolutely does.
It's just the second line that he might not say. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know. Just maybe do a quick rewatch. It's very awkward if you actually kind of look
The
at
only
the syncing.
semi cameo I had was a 26-year-old Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon,
Oh, my
the
favorite
security guard.
underrated actor of all time.
Yeah.
He's
Mi-
I love it.
Oh,
young
and you know
Michael
who
Shannon.
else? Damn it, I'm not going to remember his name, but the guy from Big Bang Theory, Jonathan. What's his name?
Oh, he's like
the
the
assistant.
coordinator
He's
guy.
the assistant. Yeah,
Yeah, he's the
it's
the
on the
nerd.
tip of my tongue.
He's the one with the glasses, kind of squinty.
Something.
Yeah,
Oh
we
my
all know who
gosh,
you're
I
talking
can't think
about.
of his name. He's actually a pretty good actor though, and he was like kind of a famous child actor, and he. Yeah.
Johnny Galecki?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay,
Thank
yeah.
you.
He had like the
Yeah.
headset on. He was like the event guy.
Okay, rapid fire. Here we go. Line of dialogue. I can tell by the way you're walking you didn't sleep with her. What's the sex walk versus the non-sex walk?
I wonder if it was just a swagger. Because I thought about that too.
Like you're waiting for him to walk awkwardly to know. Yeah.
So I thought, well, maybe they're going at it. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're just saying you don't have like that swagger that you have after you've had sex. I don't think it was like a mechanical issue.
But I feel like didn't he have some
And that's near and dear
But
to my
wasn't
heart
there
recently.
swagger though? I feel like he walked out of there just a beam of sunshine.
So maybe it was referring to mechanical issues.
It maybe was.
yeah, maybe a little too much on the right step or the
Wasn't there something in like Me, Myself, and Irene when he's like tries to go to the bathroom and it's like like there's something weird about how he had sex the night before
and
it
he pissed all over the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never fully understood that. I don't know. There's something we're not picking up on. Let's just leave it there.
Okay, we got to talk for a second about the kind of the sex smothering scene.
That was so awkward.
The fuck. That was my note. The fuck.
The fuck.
Yeah,
You're talking about the one where he kills Sophia.
I am.
Okay.
Wasn't working for me. just an odd scene, and even the way it was filmed, like the way the sex was filmed was weird. It was amateurish and didn't work.
I hate to sound like a cougar or a teenager, but I think a good sex scene goes a long way, and there are some really, really good ones out there, and
Not in this film.
not in this film. Okay, you
Not
can.
in this film.
And,
Absolutely not.
And I'm not saying I have to see that, but if I'm going to see it, make it
They were
steamy.
grossly awkward.
Yeah, make it good. Both of them in this movie were just not doing it for me.
Tom Cruise got better with the sex scenes than Tomka and Maverick for sure.
I think even in Jerry Maguire there was like a bad sex scene. Like I don't know if Cameron Crowe's ever had sex.
Debatable.
I'm sorry, Cameron Crowe.
That's why he called it the sex walk.
Oh,
'cause apparently
yeah. He
thinks
read it in
there's
a book.
no
He read it.
sex walk.
Yeah, he read it in a book. Yeah.
All right. Just an observation. Tom Cruise screaming tech support was like me setting up my new router last weekend from Spectrum.
Very nice. Very nice. We've all been there.
Yes, it was a nightmare. Fuck you, Spectrum. Don't ever sponsor us. We won't take it.
Not sponsored by Spectrum.
Yeah, not sponsored by Spectrum.
I got one. Speaking of alcohol, do you guys ever get annoyed in a movie where somebody just orders a beer or orders a whiskey and they don't say what, and the bartender doesn't ask them what? Does that take you guys out of it as much as it takes me out of it? And this movie did not perpetrate that.
True.
In this movie, it was very refreshing that he said tequila, and instead of just giving him a tequila, he goes, "What kind do you want?" Because that's the way the world works.
It was a Budweiser and a tequila. If I'm
It was a
mistaken.
Budweiser, and then he says tequila, and he says, "What kind?" He goes, "Patron," and then he's drinking Patron, and I'm like, "Thank you for actually
Yeah.
drinking a real thing." So I don't know. I maybe you guys don't care about that, but I get annoyed when he's like, "Oh, 4 beers," and they just give them
Because we
4
all
beers.
know if you say beer or give me the tequila or give me the bourbon, you'll get it the lowest level you possibly can at the house, right?
Well,
The bartender's going to give
specify,
you.
they're
I know.
gonna
I'm saying
rate you
if
and
you
give
don't specify, you're going to get the lowest tier.
No, you might get the highest because they're going to charge you
no.
as much as they want.
No, they'll give you the house one where they make the most money. They're not going to give you the most expensive with the lowest.
No, I think they're going to want that tip. I think that bartender's going to see I could give him a $20 shot, and I'm going to get a $2 tip, or I give him a $10 shot and get it. Anyway, we've kind of gone.
Can I
That's
just point
deep.
out
That's
quickly
very
that
deep.
I think because of this movie, and this movie did kind of make an impact at the, we were all kind of at an impressionable age. I know you didn't see it at that age,
At
but
35, yeah.
but you did. And I think for like at least a couple years after this movie came out, like beer and a shot became kind of a
Oh, yeah.
badass, order at the bar.
Yep.
It's just a way to get the party started. Shot of tequila,
Totally.
Budweiser. I mean, it's just pretty boss. You come in and that's what you get.
That's
So-
still a thing. At some
still a
hipster
thing.
places you go, they're one of their specials is
beer and a shot.
a tall boy PBR and a shot of something.
And surely this movie didn't come up with that, but it definitely put it into my mind. Okay, where do we go from here? I think this is one thing. Quick discussion about this. This is another thing that kind of really pissed me off about this movie as well. Very, very. It seems like kind of a little bit of a small thing, but there's no movie without this, right? And that's the kind of idea that the choice that Tom Cruise's character makes to get in the car with Cameron Diaz after she's acting like an absolutely insane, crazy bitch.
Yeah, and he thinks about it, and he's like, "Yeah, that sounds fun." And he
Yeah,
gets
and he's
in.
just like, "Yeah, okay,
Kinda on
sounds
par-
good to me."
It's on
right
par with his
after
character.
it's immediately after
Yeah.
he has the greatest night of his life, right? He steals the girl from his best friend, and he goes and has the greatest night, and then he goes right outside and meets her.
That's right,
Right?
after that Jeff
I mean,
Buckley
she's
song plays.
literally stalking him.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
and she's going to murder him. Okay, like that was such a strange. I mean, I get what you're saying. Cruise's character was kind of whimsical and, just flying by the seat of his pants. But I mean, even the kind of an irrational dumbass would know not to get in the car with that absolutely insane woman, right?
Yeah, because she really already was his stalker at that
and it was
point.
no Ferrari or Mustang. It was what was
Yeah.
it? A
An old boat.
baseless Pontiac. I don't know what it was.
That's a good point. Why did he do that?
And that because there's no movie without that happening.
That's true. That
And-
was the inciting incident for the entire thing, and it was one of the best sequences of the entire movie.
Now that the scene
They just
now,
didn't-
after he gets in the
Yeah.
car, you're right.
but you're
It's an
right. That
excellent
that
sequence.
was not earned. That scene wasn't earned because they did not write him into that. It's not like she pulled a gun on him and said, "Get in the car," which then it wouldn't have worked because then you wouldn't have seen the progression. But yeah, you're right. There was no reason. They didn't. It's not like she showed like some cleavage or something, and he like can't resist her. You know what I mean?
No, she acted crazy, and she was crazy.
Yeah, and then
he's
he gets
like-
in.
He's like, "Yeah, that sounds great. I'm getting in." I was
Huh,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, she was clearly a lunatic at that
yeah,
point.
and then they replayed it towards the end too, as like a flash. If I remember correctly, but I don't remember. But I know they played it twice for sure. They played that scene specifically where he's outside the car and he makes the decision, and that's where it all turned. But like he had it all, he had the moment to change, and then he just went back to his old ways.
I think what they wanted was they wanted there to be a specific thing you can point to that said that was like, if you wouldn't have done that one thing, your life would be completely different. And they were right to try to set a scene up like that, but they didn't write it well. They did. It was
I
unearned.
didn't. Yeah.
No, it's like the perfect butterfly effect. I mean, I
Yeah.
saw it that way, but it was the perfect butterfly effect. I feel like that was the turning point.
Yeah.
That
But it didn't make sense because he just had this great night. Yeah.
that's the only part that I didn't quite add up correctly. But yeah,
Good point. My last rapid fire thought was I really just enjoyed New York. There's certain movies that I watch the movie and like I'll watch a James Bond movie and I instantly think of London, or I'll watch The Social Network and I just think of, actually I don't even know what I think of there, but some movies are just tied to like places, and this movie really was tied to New York City and it just really celebrated it, and I enjoyed New York as the backdrop for this movie.
Watch Sweet Smell of Success, man.
Okay.
It's the best New York movie I've ever seen.
Even better than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
what movie?
Oh boy!
Wait, all right, wait. What movie?
Sweet Smell of Success.
Sweet
It's like
Smell of
Tony
Success.
Curtis, Burt Lancaster. I think it's like 57. It's an old movie. It's a great movie. And I'm not going to try and act like I'm some pretentious movie asshole that watches all these movies from the 50s. I'm absolutely not. Someone just recommended this movie to me, and I happened to watch it. It's a great fucking movie, great dialogue, and it's just pure New York. It's like,
You told me about this right before our last recording, and it's on my list.
yeah, please watch it. I
Okay.
really think you're going to like it.
I-
I'm not going to keep raving about it, but I
No,
just really thought
please
it was,
do, because
it
that's
was
topical
excellent.
for sure.
Okay. Just kind of one more observation here I want to talk a little bit about, and that is kind of, and this is yet another reason I knock this movie a lot, and that is that this to me, I guess, kind of felt like at the end of the day, a Tom Cruise vanity project, right? He is this multimillionaire badass, New York City. He's got all the hottest chicks in the world fawning over him. He just gets to act like this kind of aloof, rich doofus, and it just kind of. Sorry, by the way, for Cameron Diaz, or to Cameron Diaz, for calling you a crazy bitch. You just really did a great job in this movie, and I was sold. So,
Yeah, it's a
anyways,
compliment.
Yeah, it was a compliment. She did a nice job in this.
Because I got to
movie.
be honest, I kind of like a crazy bitch.
Yeah, there's a little.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't just play the blonde bombshell. She
I mean, we
played
can't
a
really, we
crazy
can't
ass
resist.
blonde bombshell.
I mean, hot, crazy. They
Yeah.
they go together.
There's some overlap.
It's, peanut butter and jelly. So anyway, yeah. So I think we were kind of talking about. Oh yeah. So this was another reason. Rapid fire, 30-minute rapid fire. What the fuck's going on here? But that I kind of didn't like this movie was that this felt like a vanity project for Tom Cruise to me. He is a multimillionaire playboy, New York City, living the dream life. He's got all the hottest chicks in the world just fawning over him. I just kind of felt like he read the script and he was in because he didn't have to do anything. And that kind of just kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Agree. And I'll further that and say, interesting thing. I think this was Tom Cruise's last pure dramatic role.
That
From
is
here
interesting,
from
yeah.
here on out, it's
Was Magnolia after this?
action. Magnolia was before this.
It was before this. Okay.
Yep. Eyes Wide Shut was before this.
Jerry Maguire?
Jerry Maguire was before this.
Oh, no shit.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay. Man,
Yep. Those were all three before this. And Magnolia is a good movie.
I've
That's
never
probably, I would
seen it.
argue that is the best acting Tom Cruise has ever done is in that film.
Good segue to my next question to you guys. What's the best acting that Tom Cruise has ever done?
Well, I have given my answer.
Okay, well then what is your favorite, this might be too specific of a question, but what is your favorite Tom Cruise movie that's not like an action blockbuster movie? And if I'm sorry if that narrows it down too much, then
No, it's okay.
I can retract the question. But I feel like half of his filmography is dramatic stuff, like Rain Man, A Few Good Men, Far and Away, Jerry Maguire, Vanilla Sky. You could even say like Cocktail, Risky Business,
That, and
stuff like
and
that.
you just named it. I was going to go with Cocktail.
Okay,
I like Cocktail a lot, and I actually didn't see that movie until probably 5 years ago or
Same.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
And it's just a fun movie. It's a light movie. It's kind of a romantic comedy, I would say. It's not that funny, I guess. I don't know, but it's a good, well-made, kind of thoughtful romantic movie that I enjoyed.
Okay.
Yeah, I gotta go Rain Man. I don't know.
Nice.
Did you mention that? Like,
Uh-huh.
it's not. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was probably his best performance because it's the perfect balance of like he's likable, you understand what he's doing, but he has a great turn in that film. So
Hot take, Far and Away. Ron Howard's Far and Away. That is. Have you seen this movie, Chris? You're typing. Are you?
I don't
you
think so.
searching?
No, I'm looking
Have
it
you
up.
seen Far and Away?
I
Nick?
have not. No.
Wow. Okay. Far and Away is a highly rewatchable, super fun, entertaining, interesting period piece. So good. I've been meaning to rewatch it. Great score by John Williams. Iconic soundtrack. This was back when Ron Howard made good movies. Now he's kind of degraded to shit to make money. But in the 90s, Ron Howard made absolute awesome movies.
I have never heard of this movie.
And this is one of them. And if you've not seen Far and Away, put it next on your list because it
This
is
like barely on my. I barely
it is
remember
so
this.
good. So anyway, that would be my most favorite non-action. Now, next question: just your favorite Tom Cruise movie overall? Do you have one?
Oh man.
And your answer, an acceptable answer, is all Mission Impossible movies except number 2.
I mean,
All Mission Impossible,
I'm-
Top Gun Maverick for sure.
I'm going Tropic Thunder.
I want fat hands.
Oh, what a
I
great
don't want to
role.
dance.
Yeah.
What a great role!
Yeah. Yeah.
Unironic.
He
or
fucking killed it. No, he
Okay.
fucking killed that.
all right.
Yeah, no, that's it may be a little ironic, but I really did enjoy his role in that film.
I got to go just by a very, very slight margin. I've got to go Edge of Tomorrow, or as it's been renamed, Live, Die, Repeat, and that just barely edges out the original Mission Impossible for me as the best Tom Cruise movie.
I
Man.
love that movie too. By the way, it falls into the eminently rewatchable category.
Mission Impossible or Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Okay, yep.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, I gotta go Maverick. That seems very recent, but that was his like strongest. Just he brought back to the entire film industry single handedly.
He saved-
with that
yeah.
film.
In a lot of ways.
It's
He
just
saved theaters.
insanity. But I hold him pretty highly for that for sure.
All right, gents. What else is there to say about Vanilla Sky? We've covered a lot of ground. We definitely differed in opinions on this one a decent amount. But I think weirdly we kind of agreed a lot, even
I
though
know, isn't that weird?
yeah. It was just kind of it was a matter of I guess kind of taste and what we enjoy.
Did you guys like that last song that played when he's falling, that Sigur Rós song, that Icelandic band song? Was it a little too melodramatic for you, or I feel like it fit pretty well?
I thought the music in this movie was pretty good.
Yeah, it
and
was
I
great.
like Sigur Rós too. And
Yeah.
I kind of like, and I thought it was kind of a nice compliment to the Radiohead on the front
To start
end.
Radiohead. and end
Radiohead
with
was
Sigur
fantastic
Rós,
to
yeah.
start, but I have no idea what that last song was. Maybe it was like I have no idea.
It's called it's actually the name of it's like very Icelandic, but it translates to the Nothing Song, and it's
Okay.
on their album that's just like 15 songs that are called Untitled. I don't know. They're way out
They're
there.
very weird, and I as I recall, they don't really even like sing a language. They just kind of sing
Yeah.
gibberish.
Yeah,
And-
they're very
yeah.
shoegaze,
Very,
very much
yeah,
like the
ambient.
Icelandic version of turn of the century Radiohead.
Yeah,
Um,
kind of emotional ambient. It's good. It's actually
Yeah.
kind of good stuff if you're you
Yep.
need something
Agreed.
kind of weird to listen to. Yeah, but final thoughts, guys. What how do we sum up this kind of beautiful mess of a movie?
I mean, I'm going to sum it up with just the theme of that poignant question. I love movies that ask a question that is a super deep question. And, I've been listing kind of sort of half jokingly my favorite movies in order as we've done these podcasts. And for the most part, each movie asks a specific question at the kernel of the movie, like, Groundhog Day, The Matrix. They ask these questions that we are faced with. And that I very highly value that in a movie. And Vanilla Sky asks and answers that question. And I just maybe overinflate my rating for that, and I recognize that. But to me, that is what this movie does: is it sets up a question and it knocks it down, and it's got some cool vibe, a little bit of cool vibe that stays with you and affects you atmospherically. And it definitely is not without its flaws. But I would say I probably won't watch it again for another 20 years. But when I do, I'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't know. It was surreal but thought provoking. I think it felt awkward at times, but I can't knock it. It was interesting enough. It kept my attention the entire way through. It makes me want to go watch a few breakdown videos of like what all those 5, the director cuts, what he thought of the film, and see what other people kind of thought of that time. So
For me, this movie was just low enjoyment. I didn't really like it except for the first 15 to 20 minutes and the last 5 or 10 minutes. And I thought it had mediocre at best direction and cinematography. And they tried to, do some cool things. One thing that's kind of interesting is, they had kind of all the drone or maybe even at the time helicopter shots.
It had to have been helicopter. I was thinking
Right.
about that with Central Park at the beginning. The
Which
push-in shots to the apartment.
It's so funny how we totally take that for granted now. Like in 2001, that was really fucking cool.
They spent
Yeah,
10
right.
times on that shot what a budget would have spent on it.
probably
today.
100
Probably
times.
100 times. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
Just kind of sad.
yeah. Once again, kind of the time. The things that really made this movie stand out at the time don't make it stand out today.
Well, and it shows the budget that Cameron Crowe had. I mean, to shut down Times Square, to have those helicopter push-in shots.
first and only time to shut down Times Square.
yeah,
It's
you know?
incredible.
And I, he didn't have to do that. They didn't have to spend the budget to do that kind of stuff. And it's those little touches that I think kind of stay with you. So anyway,
Yeah.
keep going. Sorry, I didn't even.
Well, no, and I guess the other thing, is it's interesting you said I probably am not going to watch this movie again for another 20 years. I don't think I'm going to watch this movie ever again unless someone really wants to watch it or something. Like I wouldn't like refuse to watch it, but I would never kind of my own volition watch this movie again. And that actually kind of made me like weirdly sad and nostalgic.
Sorry,
As
Tom.
I was watching the movie last night, I was like, "This is the last time
This is
I'm ever
it.
going to see this.
This
fucking
movie
guy
dies.
jump off the building, and jump into the real world. Like I'm kind of done with it, And it's an experience I've had a few times now, and I didn't love it. There are a few things that are notable and interesting about it, but I didn't think it was a great movie. I didn't like it that much. I can see why someone would like this movie, but it's just not for me.
There just wasn't much that made you want to rewatch it. I mean, I hate to harp on her, but Penelope Cruz, she is not. I don't like her, and that's personal taste. I get it, but if she was somebody that's way more intriguing, like what we mentioned earlier, Florence Pugh, somebody like that, who like I just would watch a movie just to see this person act, just because they're compelling. Or if like Jason Lee was like Philip Seymour Hoffman, or just give me some people and some things that would make me go, even if I don't like the movie, I want to see that person play that role again. There wasn't much of that here.
Yeah, having watched it once and only once, I don't think I'll watch it again. The most I would do would maybe watch a 10-minute, breakdown of the film to see what other people thought of like what their interpretation was, and that's about it. So,
All right. Join us next time on Critical Mess when we will be talking about the Blair Witch Project.
Ooh.
Yes, we are going horror. We have
Horror,
not done
finally.
horror yet.
It only
So
took 10 episodes, but we got there.
We are getting there. So yes, found footage. We know you remember it. We are going to have some fun with that.
And remember, we are coming up on our 10th episode. So every
That's right.
5, we flip the script, as it were. We do a high critic, low audience.
Very important point. Yes, I'm glad you noted that. So to everyone listening out there, our deepest thanks for sticking with us. We are very happy you found us and hope you will keep listening. You can find us at all your local podcast dealers. We love you all. We will catch you on the flip.
later, gang.
See ya!